It's that time of year again where a new set's just come out. This time it's Mega Evolution. We're going to go through the card list and or at least some of the cards and talk about what cards are standing out to me and what I'm looking at now with the new set coming out. So it's been a few days since they released the full set list, and I mean a lot of people have been able to look at the cards as they've been revealing them and with the translations from the Japanese set, but I usually tend to not look and keep the spoils, keep it spoil free, I guess, suppose, for myself, so that I finally get to look at it when I look through the list. So let's just get into the Pokemon that we see here. So there's the Mega Venusaur, of course, is going to be a big hit. There's a lot of people that are already talking about it. I don't know if it's all that good necessarily. It's definitely better with the Meganium, which makes the grass Pokemon more powerful. The 380 is a lot of HP. It's weird that they keep increasing the HP of Pokemon. I don't know if they're trying to get to a certain point and then have it there, like stopped there, if that makes sense, so that there's like an equilibrium, if that makes sense, or if they're just going to keep trying to make the HPs go up and up and up and make it so that the game is different, 5 years from now. But one thing that I noticed is that in this set, we got a lot of good archetype cards that will help grass in the last couple sets, of course, as well, because there's also Forest of Vitality, which significantly will help grass Pokemon. So Forest of Vitality allows grass Pokemon, each player's grass Pokemon can evolve into grass Pokemon during the turn they play those Pokemon, except during their first turn. So basically it allows you to, on any turn, you can play your Bulbasaur, then evolve it to Ivysaur, then evolve it right into your Mega Venusaur and use its ability. Or same case for Meganium, to use that grass ability. So Meganium's ability here, each basic grass energy attached to all of your Pokemon provide 2 energy. The effect of wild growth does not stack. So this attack here with Meganium in play, you really only need 2 energies on Meganium to do the 140. If Meganium's in play with Mega Venusaur, you have 2 energies on it. That means 240 damage. But that also means that there's going to be a lot of cards like Teal Mask Ogre Palm and all those grass types that can attack for the amount of energy. They're going to be dealing a lot more damage. And if you can get them out a lot easier, it'll make things so much better for the grass archetype. So let's get into some of these other cards. Executor. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage. Stomping Wood. This attack does 30 more damage for each grass energy attached to this Pokemon. So that's another one of those guys where if you have 2 energies with Meganium out, Executor is doing 60 damage plus 30 plus 30 because you've got the 2 energies on it. Actually, no, it'd be more than that because now you've got 4. So it'd be even more than that. So, I mean, imagine if one of my favorite cards is Salvatore. Or you don't even need a Salvatore because if you got the Force of Vitality, you can evolve it right away. So you got your execute out, and you evolve into Executor right away, get those energies down. He's hitting for a lot of damage. Tangrowth. This guy's always been kind of a cool little guy to me, and I like this artwork on this Tangrowth here. If this Pokemon has at least 2 extra energies attached, in addition, this attack does 140 more damage, so it can do 260 damage if you got 2 extra energies. So with Meganium, if you got 3 energies on it, that's a pretty good amount of damage right there. Of course, Meganium's got Chikorita and Bayleaf. Bayleaf's got your switching attack for 50, which is pretty good. Celebi's interesting. Search your deck for 3 in any combination of grass Pokemon and stadium cards. Reveal them and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. That could be a great engine to go find your Force to Vitality, a couple of Pokemon, and get them evolved up. As long as Celebi stays out, then you can start searching for lots of things and get those evolving trees going in. Shiftry. I didn't add his evolutions because they're not super relevant here. But he has an interesting ability. Flip a coin. If heads, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. Shuffle that Pokemon and all attached cards into their deck. So the Shiftry reminds me a lot of Butterfree here. So Butterfree has the ability Bye-Bye Flight where you take both Pokemon. No, Butterfree takes any of your opponent's Pokemon, and then you shuffle Butterfree and that Pokemon into each other's decks. Shiftry does it only to the active Pokemon, but it's also a coin flip. and Shift Tree doesn't go away himself. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic because there's a few Pokemon that have this sort of thing where you can just kind of like shuffle away your opponent's Pokemon. I know that there was a Golduck, I don't know if that was from Sun and Moon, that had the same ability, but it's similar to like the de-evolution type stuff where you can devolve your opponent's Pokemon. But in this case, if you can do this enough times and you're getting rid of the Pokemon that can attack, you're basically stalling out your opponent until you can deal some damage and stuff. So kind of an interesting mechanic. I don't know which one of these abilities is interesting. I might try testing out a deck since Butterfree is a current, but having something like this and then using Force of Vitality to evolve up into them right there and get up to their evolution faster might be an interesting strategy where you're just stalling them out. But you've got to have some kind of win condition, and neither of these guys give you a win condition, so you've got to have something going on. Nincada here is interesting because he evolves into both of these guys, and Ninjask here, once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may use this ability. Search your deck for a Shedinja and put it onto your bench. So when you evolve into Nincada, you can get, when you evolve your Nincada into Ninjast, you can go and get a Shedinja and put it on your bench. And then when you attack with this guy and deal 90 damage, you can switch this Pokemon, ideally with Shedinja. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon EX, your opponent can't take a prize card for it. So that's an interesting little deck. I wonder how well this deck will actually use, because it's using the same mechanic that like the Feraligatr decks use, where you switch out to a wall Pokemon, and but you're not doing a lot of damage, and your wall Pokemon could be Shedinja or something else where they're not going to draw a prize card if they knock it out. But damage beat here is interesting. For one Psychic, this attack does 20 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So you're essentially tripling the damage here with this attack, which could be interesting. So it's an interesting mechanic. It allows you to like have more Pokemon out. So we'll see if this could be fun or useful. For the giggles, Ninetales here has discard the top card of your deck, and if that card is a supporter card, use the effect of that card as the effect of this attack. It would be an interesting way to try to get 2 supporters played each turn, but for the giggles, it'd be interesting to set something up like Lieutenant Sarge's Bargain, where you're asking your opponent to, if you could each take a prize card, and if not, you get to draw 4 cards. This is one of the new supporters from this set, and you could easily set that up with Academy at Night, or there's a new Pokemon in this set as well where you could set this up. I'm gonna make this deck just for the giggles of it and see how it goes, but I wonder if there's any other supporters that you could actively use Ninetales for and get those 2 supporters a turn and set some extra stuff up. I'm thinking of like there's some supporters that are really good with energy manipulation, or like deterring your opponent from getting stuff done. So of course, Numel and Mega Camerupt EX. What does this guy actually do? If your opponent's active Pokemon is burned, this attack does 160 more damage. Okay, it's not too bad. That's a lot of damage for one. But trying to get your opponent burned, there are ways to get opponent's Pokemon burned. For 4 energies, Volcanic Meteor, 280, discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. The hardest thing about it is keeping those energies on the Pokemon. I guess we have like Bounce Energy and stuff like that. So, of course, the new Mega Pokemon, they are EX Pokemon, but their prize pool that you're taking if they get knocked out is 3 instead of 2. So you have to really be conscious of having those Mega Pokemon out, because if they get knocked out, then your opponent is taking 3 prizes for them. Cinderace, he has his evolutions, but his second stage here is definitely the best. If this Pokemon is in your hand when you're setting up to play, you may put it face down in the active spot. Interesting for decks if they need cards to be able to discard, because he can be a later card that you're just trying to get rid of. But on the first turn, he has a great attack, Turbo Flare for 50. Search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck. That could be an interesting way to get lots of bench Pokemon out. If you're needing to set up, if there's like a deck that utilizes like Precious Trolley and needs to set that up, you could switch out the Precious Trolley for some other tool and then have this as your starting Pokemon. Or if you have a deck that like needs lots of starters, you could have this as your opening hand starter. So it's just kind of an interesting idea. I've got a deck I might throw this guy into just for the heck of it, for trying it out. my current Garbodor deck could use Cinderace in it to set up instead of using Precious Trolley. Sencha Scorch has an interesting ability here. 2 energies for 50 damage, Coiling Crush. Flip 2 coins for each head, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. The interesting there is discarding it. This reminds me of Unpheasant here. For 2 energy, 70 damage, you put 2 energies from your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. This is for sure going to happen, but then the energies go into their hand, which then means they could play them. But energy disruption, the advantage of this sort of thing is you have the chance of getting 2 energies, right, out of play. So if your opponent needs those 2 energies, you're going to be getting. They can't just play an energy and get that attack off again. They've got to wait 2 turns to get that going, and so. Someday, if there's a way we can manipulate coin flips, maybe this would be better, but we don't have that right now, so it's really not worth playing super hard. But this Kyogre is interesting. This attack here, this attack does 20 damage for each basic water energy cards in your discard pile, then shuffle those cards back into your deck. A way to get the energies back from your discard pile into your deck. It could go really well with Mega Abomasnow here. So like if you're building a deck with just the cards in these set, these 2 would definitely be useful. Abomasnow EX, he has the ability that puts energies into your discard. So discard the top 6 cards of your deck, and this attack does 100 damage for each basic water energy. He can do a lot of damage. We've seen people make decks with this guy, and it's up to chance. You could use cards to stack those energies on top of the deck. There are ways to do it. But the consistency and the ability to do that can be kind of volatile, and it's not necessarily going to be as consistent as just straight out attacking with a good attacker. What does his other attack do? For 200 during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. That's not too bad, I guess, if there's already enough damage to knock something out. Let's see. Clawitzer. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your active spot to your bench, you may use this ability. Attach up to 2 basic energies from your hand to this Pokemon. Oh, there's the new stadium that came in for water Pokemon. This guy. Once during each player's turn, that player may switch their active water Pokemon with their benched water Pokemon. I could see where that guy could go. He'd be pretty useful with that, where you can switch your water Pokemon around a little bit easier, so then you use this as an engine, I guess, to get your water Pokemon out, or your water energies out. Could be something there. Inteleon was one of those guys that was in the pre-release decks. So the pre-release Inteleon. This is actually a really good Pokemon. This attack here, bring down. Choose a bait Pokemon in play that has the least HP remaining except for this Pokemon, and it is knocked out. So if Inteleon is your only Pokemon, you're always going to knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon. I wonder if there's many cards where you could manipulate the HP to lower Pokemon's HP, or get away where you can deal lots of damage to your opponent's Pokemon. I'm thinking spread decks where you're able to spread the deck damage out, and then you have Inteleon in. It would be really cool to mix, if you play Expanded, mix this Inteleon with the I can't remember the name of the ability, the older Inteleon from Sword and Shield. Was it a Rapid Strike Pokemon? Yeah, I think he was a Rapid Strike, where you would place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then you could do that as during your turn, and then for your attack for the turn to use Ring Down. That would be a really interesting way in Expanded to play Inteleon. Frostmoth. Chilling Wings. This is actually an interesting ability. So this attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, so it's a way to spread lots of damage out. And your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep, so there's a chance that they could they would get stuck there. The thing with this is, if you start with this really early, if your opponent's Pokemon are evolution Pokemon, they're just going to evolve it, and then their Pokemon is no longer asleep. And so doing this early isn't necessarily that great, but if you have ways to take advantage of having all your opponent's Pokemon have the extra damage, but I'm imagining a Snom Frostmoth with a Frostlass, where you're able to spread the damage out, maybe even Pokemon that take advantage of Pokemon that have damage counters on them. That could be an interesting way to stall out the beginning of the game with that asleep mechanic. and for 1 energy, that's pretty good. You can always Salvatore with this. I'm always looking at ways, Pokemon that don't have abilities that you can use for Salvatore on your first turn, play your energy and it do the attack if you go second. So interesting little mechanic there. I thought that could be an interesting guy to play with. Electrike with Mega Manectric EX. Manectric has an interesting ability here. 120 damage, Flash Ray for 2 electric. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. So if your opponent's playing with those basic Pokemon decks, they're not going to be able to deal damage to him, which is kind of interesting. But I found that not as many people these days are playing with those basic decks, and I'm seeing a lot more of those evolution decks. The 2 that I can think of right now, you've got like the Steel Mask Ogre Palm, you've got Raging Bolt, and I guess you've got like the future Iron Hands and Pikachu Pikachu X. Those type of cards could be really good with this guy. So against this guy, so you may discard all energy from this Pokemon and have this attack do 130 more damage. That would be 330 damage. Riotous Blasting. Wow. We do have a lot of ways to accelerate electric energies, and so that could be an interesting way to like power him back up. He does have free retreat, so that is something that is actually very important. How do you say this guy's name? Pecherishu? I'd actually look that up and see how often you guys look up Pokemon's names when you don't think you know how to say them right. During your opponent's next turn, whenever they attach an energy card from their hand to the defending Pokemon, place 8 damage counters on that Pokemon. This reminds me of Hypno here. For 2 energies, 80 damage. I actually put this guy in a deck one time with Gengar, who Gengar, whenever they attach an energy to their Pokemon, our Pokemon takes 2 damage counters. So in this case, if you do an attack and they place an energy on their Pokemon, then they'll take 8 damage counters. It reminds me of this, where when your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to the defending Pokemon, their turn ends. The thing that's hard with this is if you pull off one of these attacks and then your opponent evolves or switches out their Pokemon, the defending Pokemon is no longer has this ability on it, and so it doesn't trigger. And that was the problem that I had with this Hypno a few times, is there were players that would fall into the trap of trying to attach an energy onto it. And the solution here is if you want to set up a Pokemon on your bench and then switch into it, and a lot of people, or you evolve so that the trigger won't happen, or you switch it out and then you can attach an energy. It's an interesting ability. It's kind of fun. You can build around it, and there might be other ways that you could like take advantage of these sort of things. I really like attacks like this just because they are different than others, and it's just kind of fun. Alakazam, another pre-release deck card. Of course, every time you evolve from Abra, you're able to draw cards. So with Kadabra, when you evolve, you draw 2 cards. With Alakazam, when you evolve, you draw 3 cards. The decks I've seen online of the Alakazam deck are super sick. They're awesome. For 1 energy, powerful hands, Alakazam does place 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's let me read that again. Place 2 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon for each card in your hand. So for each card you have, you deal a lot more damage. This reminds me of Lampent. I can't remember. Litwick. I can't remember the full evolution tree. Lampent has an attack, but his ability allows both players to draw a card, and his attack is similar to this, where you get to deal damage, but it's for each card in your opponent's hand, where this is each card in your hand, which is much more controllable. You can make sure you have a large hand size. Of course, with Abracadabra and Alakazam, there's the what's the item card we just got right here? Strange Timepiece. Devolve one of your evolved psychic Pokemon and put any number of evolution cards into your hand. So if you have a full HP Alakazam, you can on your bench maybe, let's say, and you can use that card to devolve Alakazam down to Abra, and then start evolving him back up on your next turn. Since that card you can't evolve them that turn, you de-evolve them, but then you're able to draw more cards. Kind of interesting mechanic there with those guys, and that Strange Timepiece. So now we get into the Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir. So this Corellia is actually really good for 1 energy. It's better than the current standard Corellia. I don't know if it's any better than the one we had in Sword and Shield where you could discard a card and draw 2 cards. But for 1 energy, search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon, reveal them and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. So very good if you're trying to get an evolution line going in the Psychic colors, especially if you want to get your Gardevoir. That's a good way to get it. So yeah, I wonder how many people, I mean, I've seen people using Gardevoir in their Gardevoir decks, evolving or having a Mega Gardevoir in their decks. I don't know how viable it is necessarily because you're going from like a stage 1 attacking deck using Gardevoir EX to placing the energies down. Their mechanics do work well together because Mega Gardevoir or Gardevoir EX allows you to dump your energies out in from the discard pile. And Mega Gardevoir EX has the ability, this attack does 50 damage for each psychic energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So if you have all those energies out, you can deal more damage. And for 1 energy, for each of your benched Pokemon, search your deck for a basic psychic energy card and attach them to that Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. Oh, interesting. So he can Mega Gardevoir has a way to accelerate energies as well. I don't know. There might be a point where Mega Gardevoir will be better. I don't know. Actually, Gardevoir is a G right here, so it's going to be rotating out at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. I'm starting to look at which Pokemon are going to be rotating out because it's weird how rotation is already just around the corner, it feels like. Grumpig, this was a previous card that a lot of people played with. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand, to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may use this ability. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy cards there. One of those energy acceleration where when you play it, you get a look at the top card of your deck. Maybe somebody will use this. I don't know. Grumpig is just not super good. This kind of reminds me of the Matang has a similar ability where when it's in play you can do this, but it's for metal energies, whereas Grumpig is any energy and it's when you evolve it. So I mean, maybe there's this thing where you could do Strange Time Tease and devolve it back down and then play it again. But the top 4 cards, that's not very many cards. So you've got to have a lot of energies in your deck, and at this point, if you're trying to get energies out, you almost might as well just be playing another guy who's a little bit better at getting those energies into play. So, Xerneas, I really like this artwork. Very colorful. Geogate, search your deck for up to 3 basic psychic Pokemon and put them under your bench, then shuffle your deck. Just one of those like basic guys that searches for basic Pokemon. See, the thing that's interesting about this is this has the same ability as Cinderace, except Cinderace searches for any Pokemon, where this is only psychic, but it's like you either have a stage 2 guy or a basic here, but it's, I don't know. Sandslash is interesting here. During your opponent's next turn, if the defending Pokemon tries to use an attack, they flip a coin. If tails, that attack doesn't happen. So if they're trying to attack you, there's a 50-50 chance that it won't happen, which reminds me of this Hoppip line. Very similar ability here, where if any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, you flip a coin. If heads, prevent that damage. So it's it's similar. This outright prevents. Let's see. This prevents the attack from happening, where this prevents the damage. But I don't know. Stand attack for 50, whereas this grass guy can do 30 with 30 to the bench and 60 with 30 to the bench. Just kind of interesting. Tyrogue, baby Pokemon, 30 HP. No energy required. Pow pow punching. Flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 30 more damage for each heads. You could, if there's those memes where your Pokemon can outright, you don't ever flip to tails and you are able to knock out your opponent's Pokemon. So if you can imagine you always get heads, maybe you have a coin that only has heads on both sides and you can trick your opponent and be like, 30 more damage, 30 more damage. Now, the thing here is fighting Pokemon got, what is it called? PP Up and Premium Power Pro, the Gatorade. During this turn, attacks used by your fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage to your active Pokemon, opponent's active Pokemon. So you could power up your Tyrogue with this and get an early attack possibly and get enough heads to knock out your opponent's big Pokemon. I don't know. It's kind of fun, but maybe if they have a way to manipulate the coin flips. Hariyama. It took me a while to actually realize that Iron Hands as a future Pokemon was Hariyama. I didn't actually think about what he was. Hariyama is going to be probably a standard staple card that people will play in their fighting decks. He has the ability that gusts, so once you're in turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may use this ability to switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. So pretty useful if you're if you're needing your opponent's Pokemon to be in a certain spot and you just have a Makuta on your bench and you've already played your supporter, so it allows you to get that boss's orders type of effect and knock out your opponent's Pokemon. He's also got a pretty good attack himself, 200 damage. The hardest thing is getting those energies on him, which, as we've seen in the Mega Lucario decks, there's a way that you are able to power him up with energies. Fighting decks got a huge advantage with this set, with the Hariyama and this Lunatone engine. Lunatone and Solrock, of course, they have their counterparts as from each other. So Lunatone, Lunar Cycle. Once during your turn, if you have a Solrock in play, you may discard a basic fighting energy card from your hand in order to use this ability, draw 3 cards. So you discard a fighting energy and you draw 3 cards. But in return, also Solrock for 70 damage with 1 energy. If you don't have Lunatone on your bench, this attack doesn't do anything. It's not affected by weakness or resistance. So if you have both these guys out, you're basically discarding a fighting energy, drawing 3 cards, and you're dealing 70 damage pretty easily. This is a great engine. People are throwing this into Goldango decks. The Mega Lucario deck with it is pretty good. We also have another item card, which is Fighting Gong, which is going to be very useful. Search your deck for a basic fighting energy card or a basic fighting Pokemon. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this can allow you to get those fighting energies and power up your ability here to discard a fighting energy and draw 3 cards. Of course, Railu and Mega Lucario EX. Aro Jab for 130. Attach up to 3 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. So you discard those fighting energies. Use Aura Jab to get your Railus and Solrocks and your Hariyamas powered up with energies. And it does a decent amount of damage for 1 energy. So an early turn of this can be pretty good to get things powered up and get moving. Mega Brave for 2 energies, 270 damage during your next turn. This Pokemon can't use Mega Brave. We ought to actually look at how many Pokemon have that 270, because I know like Raging Bolt has 260 or 270, but that number there is significant enough to knock out most EXs, but of course not the Mega EXs, so you might use those PP ups to get that extra 30 damage. The premium power pros. So I don't know, if you've seen any videos of the Mega Lucario decks, it's worth playing. It's a very good deck, and I think it's gonna stick around for a while. We'll have to see what other cards are gonna be coming out in the next few sets that will help make it that much better, because it seems like most of the cards are basically these here. So see what people are gonna develop with the deck over time. Marshadow, this guy's interesting. 2 energies, Shadowy Sidekick, 60 damage. If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. So if you're able to knock out your opponent's Pokemon with this guy, your opponent's Pokemon, no matter who it is, whether they switch it out or not, can't deal damage to Marshadow. So this is interesting because there's a Pokemon, Corviknight, that has a similar attack, Accelerate, for 50 damage for 1 energy. If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out from damage from this attack during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage. So it's the same thing. I was putting Corviknight into my Slowking deck. It's hard because you have to get the damage already on your opponent's Pokemon, so you have to get them down and then deal the 50 damage, or in this case 60. So Slowking has the ability to look at the top card of the deck, and if it's Corviknight, you could use any of the attacks here. So if you're unable to knock out your opponent's Pokemon on their next turn, what the Pokemon they bring up to the active can't kill you. They can't deal any damage. And so this might be an interesting fighting version of that same mechanic. Again, this is going to be like very specific if you can get the Slowking out and get that stuff going. So it's kind of interesting. I like the mechanic. It's useful. You could use it somewhere. Whether it's actually good because sometimes it's not worth like preventing damage when you can just outright deal more damage. So it just kind of depends. Knackley, Nagelstack, and Garganackle. I'm surprised that they've printed as many versions of this guy as they have, because in the past we've got these different versions of Garganackle in the last 2 years. So the current one that they just released, all of them have great abilities. Powerful Assault, of course, is like Assault guy. Attacks used by your fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Interesting if you could power up your fighting Pokemon. But of course, the other versions of this guy, during Pokemon Checkup, heal 20 damage. So in between turns, you heal 20 damage to all of your Pokemon. This Garganackle Energy Rock Salt, Energizing Rock Salt, you attach a basic fighting energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and you get to heal that Pokemon. So a good way to accelerate. And then this Garganackle Salty Body, this Pokemon can't be affected by special conditions. 170 damage during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon takes 60 less damage from attacks. So just kind of interesting there. But again, talking about how fighting Pokemon got a lot of great cards, I could see this being useful in some ways. The hard thing here is it's stage 2, so you have to get him evolved up. I had built a healing, like a stall high HP tank deck that used this Garganackle. And so if they didn't knock out your Pokemon, you were healing 40 damage by the time your turn came back around, which is kind of interesting. This Garganackle is great if you're trying to accelerate your energies, so it just kind of depends. Mega Absol. I'm actually kind of excited about this card. It's kind of interesting, and with some of the cards that are coming up in the future, in the next set, with Dark Pokemon, Dark Gengar, and there's a couple of other dark cards that could be really good. Terminal period, if your opponent's active Pokemon has exactly 6 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. Kind of interesting, trying to figure out what cards you could pair that up with that could be useful. There's a lot of ways you can get 6 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, but whether that's super useful or not, the one thing is that if this ability were more useful, that would mean that more people would use Glaceon EX, possibly, although maybe they're not using Glaceon EX because of the 3 different energies that are required here. Same ability, knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon that has exactly 6 damage counters on it. It's interesting that they word it differently. I guess if one of your opponent's Pokemon has exactly 6 damage counters on it, whereas this is only the active Pokemon. But yeah, for 1 hit less energy, 2 energies here, that could be really useful. But yeah, thinking of ways that you could get extra energies or damage counters not as an attack like these guys onto your opponent's Pokemon could be really useful, and then you just knock them out. Spiritomb here is interesting. I like this attack, or ability, but I don't think it's powerful enough to be really viable. Spiteful Swirl. If your active dark Pokemon is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's knocked out, you place 1 damage counter on the attacking Pokemon. So if I've got Absol as my active Pokemon and they attack it, if I have 4 Spiritombs out, you get to do 4 damage. You get to put 4 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So Spiritomb here is only useful here if you've got lots of them, so then they're taking up all your bench space. But maybe there's something here that could be kind of interesting or fun to be able to build with. Yveltal, I really like this artwork. That's the only reason why I put this here. I guess Clutch could be useful. Your opponent's defending Pokemon can't retreat. Shroodle and Graphii. I actually don't know how to say that guy. Flip a coin. If heads, choose a special condition. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now affected by that special condition. Again, every time that I see that flip a coin mechanic, it's like you've got a 50-50 chance of doing it. So for 90 damage for 2 energies, you can pick a special condition and give it to your opponent's Pokemon. That reminds me a lot of Cradily here, although I realized after looking this up that Cradily has it as it's the same mechanic, except here it's a an ability that you can do. So if you have 2 Cradilities out, you can activate this. You have a higher chance of getting at least 1 off, where this is during an attack. Whereas, so with Credelia here, you can use the ability affect your opponent's Pokemon with a special condition, and then you still have your attack. Whereas this guy here, it's part of the attack, and so I don't know. It's just every time that there's flip a coin, it's like, never mind, pass, keep going. New Onyx and Steelix. The Steelix is really interesting. Welcoming Tale. 40 plus, if you have exactly 6 prize cards remaining, this attack does 200 more damage. So for 2 energies, if you have all 6 prizes, you're doing 240 damage. If you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, you no longer have 6 damage counters. So I wonder if there's a way you could like spread out the damage. I don't know. It's interesting. It's just one of those mechanics where it's like, can I build something with this? I don't think this is very viable. But this artwork, this is really cool. I love the like perspective, and it's just like, yeah. Mega Mawile. Basic Pokemon. That was actually another thing about the Absol up there. It's a basic. And so you can get it out early, but the risk, it's got a lower HP. Your opponent can knock it out easier, and the chance of them drawing 3 prizes is quite high. Two metal energies, 80 times. This attack does 80 damage for each prize card you have taken. So it does more damage for every prize card you have taken. So kind of similar to the Steelix with this ability, where but it's like reverse to what we normally see, because normally it's like how many prize cards your opponent has taken, you get to deal more damage. So the Mega Mawile, the more you're winning, the more you get to deal damage. Huge Bite for 3 energies, 260. If your opponent's active Pokemon already has any damage counters on it, this attack base damage is 30. Which is weird. Okay, so the wording there is different. So if they have damage counters, you're not dealing very much damage. So you want, so like it's just like a weird card. I don't know what to do with this guy, I guess, because if you do your attack and gobble down, and you're only dealing less, if you're dealing less damage, then when you can do your bigger attack, it does less damage too. And I don't know. I see ways where you could use this. It's very special and unique, and can be fun. Dialga here. You may shuffle all energy attached to this Pokemon into your deck and have this attack do 80 more damage. So that's 160, and you shuffle all the cards back. So if you have a way to accelerate more energies, like with Metang or something, I don't know. Dialga. They keep printing these really basic versions of these legendary Pokemon. Why are they not super cool and legendary? Tikatuff here. Great ability. Once during a turn, when you evolve, you flip a coin, and you have a chance of discarding energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Great ability. I'm sure the Tinkatuff decks are going to splash this in there to deal a lot more disruption and stuff. The Tinkaton here is cool. This attack does 60 less damage for each energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon, so if they have less energies, it deals the full damage. It's weird that the math here on some of these fighting Pokemon is like reverse, but it's just kind of, or not fighting Pokemon, these are metal Pokemon. It's just kind of reverse. So it's kind of just fun a way to look at it. Tinkaton's kind of interesting little guy. I like the artwork and the sparks here on these guys. Mega Latias. A Strafe, you may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, so that like retreat attack. And then Illusory Impulse for 3 energies. Discard all energies from this Pokemon, so unless you have a way to accelerate those energies. But they gave us one with Latios. Once during your turn, when Mega Latios moves from your bench to the active spot, you may use this ability to move any amount of energies from your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon, so you still have to have a way to accelerate those energies into play. And then when you switch Mega Latios in and out, you're able to get those energies. The thing here is Mega Latios is a fire, psychic, and the colorless attack here. And I wonder if, sometimes I think, what other Pokemon are there that use the same color mechanics that you could splash a deck in, but unfortunately, I don't think that these two really work well together, because you're like, they just don't work. Like, they have the same colors, but there could be something that you could splash Mega Latias into that deck, which would be interesting. The thing is that Dragapult usually doesn't tend to switch around very much, because Dragapult has lots of HP. Mega Latias only has 200 HP. That's kind of sad that he has only got 280. I guess if you're switching, there's a chance that you could bounce him back up. He's a basic, I guess. That could be useful, I guess. I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes. I haven't played with Mega Latias at all yet. Sparrow and Pharaoh. Here's one of those coin flip guys. Although you're flipping 5 coins, that's a lot of coins, right? This attack does 30 damage for each heads. Okay, it doesn't deal a lot of damage. Kind of fun. The first thought here is this Sparrow. If you go second, this Pokemon can evolve during your first turn. So you can literally, if you go second, evolve up right away, and you've got a guy who could deal a lot of damage. It's too bad we don't have some kind of coin flip manipulation card that we could take advantage of. Because imagine if you had this mechanic where you could evolve on the second turn, your first turn, evolve to Pharaoh, place your energy, deal some damage. But with Blender Policy, you guys all know what this does for each tails. So whenever your attack has you flip coins, for each tails that you flip, you get to draw 3 cards at the end of your turn. Imagine if all of those cards, those flips, are tails. You're not dealing any damage, which is fine, but now you're drawing, was it 15 cards? That would be cool. Yeah, we need something like this. Mega Kangaskhan. Run errand. What does he actually do? I didn't look at this guy yet. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you may use this ability. Draw 2 cards. You can't use more than 1 run. Okay, so if he's in the active spot, you get to draw 2 cards. Rapid fire combo. Flip a coin until you get tails. Oh, okay. This attack does 50 more damage for each heads. Another coin flip mechanic where, put Blender Policy on it, which of course isn't standard. And for each, actually, until you get tails, so you're only going to flip 1 tails, so that's actually not what you want. You want something more like this, where you're flipping lots of coins. This attack does 50 more damage for each head. Ooh, okay. Oh, maybe I have seen this. Because 3 energies for 200 is not too bad. He's colorless, so there are ways to accelerate energies. This attack does 50 more damage for each head. So you could easily knock out something. That's one of those mechanics where you're not dealing a lot of damage with this sort of guy. Or with that fighting Pokemon, the baby Pokemon. I forgot his name. And then you just have the bonus of drawing cards. I guess if you could have lots of switches or ways to switch Pokemon, you could draw more cards with the Mega Kangaskhan. Interesting. Okay, I could see where this could work. I like how these Mega Pokemon have... The old Megas had the words on them, which took up some space. I like how they have these bright colors and stuff. I think it's kind of fun. Delibird. If you go first... Oh, it's one of those if you go first attacks. You can use this attack during your first turn. Search your deck for a card and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. They always print cards like this where... Like we saw with... what was it? They always print cards like this, where they have useful attacks, but it's there are other cards that are better to have in play than that guy. If there's any cards out of all of these that I am most excited for, it's this last one here. Yangoose and Gumshoos. And it's this evidence gathering ability. Once during your turn, you may use this ability. Switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck. Ooh, that's actually better. I thought it was place a card from your hand on top of your deck, but it's switch. Interesting. Okay. I hadn't really read that. I had just seen videos of people online talking about it, and I thought it was exactly the same ability as Academy at Night. That's actually not too bad, because then you can switch a card, and then you get to find what's there, and if you're placing something there that you need, like in the Slowking deck, put those Pokemon onto the top so that you can use their attacks. That's actually quite good. I didn't realize it was a switch a card. Interesting. Okay. I'm also imagining there's a Camerupt that I've been playing with where he deals... actually, Camerupt doesn't do that, but because Camerupt discards the top card of your deck and your opponent's deck, and if there's energies, he deals more damage. But in the case of Abomasnow has the ability where you're looking at the top 6 cards, and if more of them are water energies, it's only basic water energies, not any energy there, huh? But yeah, you could use both of these cards. So you use, in Abomasnow's example, you use Gumshoe to switch the card with the top card of your deck, and then you use Academy at Night to take up an energy from your hand and put it on top of your deck. So you can guarantee that you're going to have 2 energies on top of the deck. So, and there could be something there to make Abomasnow more productive. But there's a couple of other cards that I can think of that utilize the top of the top of the deck, which could be interesting with Gumshoe here. The Gumshoes makes it the Academy, like the Academy Knight only places the card, so if your opponent's gonna like Iono you or do some kind of hand disruption where they discard and then you draw cards, you're gonna draw back into that card. Whereas Gumshoes is even better because then you're not only just placing a card on top, you're also drawing the card because you get to switch it with the top card of your deck. That's interesting. Okay, I like that even more. Yeah, this is like my most. I don't even know. I've never really looked at or seen this Pokemon before. Yangoose and Gumshoe. I'll have to look it up and see what he actually is. I'm not sure what the type is here, but that ability is quite fun. So that's all the Pokemon. Lots of new cards and interesting things to think about. And of course, there are some stadium and trainers and supporter cards that we can look at as well. So of course, we already looked at the Lieutenant Surge's Bargain. This allows each player. You ask your opponent if each player can take a prize card. If yes, each player takes a prize card. If no, then you get to draw cards. There are ways that you can play that card every single turn. This Fione, put a support card from your discard pile into your hand, so you could literally play Lieutenant Sarge's Bargain every single turn. I'm imagining using that Ninetales, and you do it every single turn. Imagine using Fione with Acero's Mischief, though. So if you play Acero's Mischief, you can only play this card if your opponent has 2 or fewer prizes remaining. Choose one of your Pokemon in play during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage from effects of attacks done to that Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon EX. So if they have an EX in play, you activate Acero's Mischief, and they cannot deal damage to Fione. And you use Beckon to get Acero's Mischief back, and then you play it again. You could stall out the game, but you could also just have like Mimikyu, which doesn't take damage from EX Pokemon. But you could also use it's a similar mechanic where you're having 2 cards, but it's like I don't know. There you could use Fione. I've used Fione as a thing where you're using a supporter in the early game multiple times. It's kind of fun, just kind of something to think about. Of course, this set had a few reprint cards like Boss's Orders, and they also had a Switch, and what did I see? Ultra Ball in this set as well. Lily's Determination. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. If you have exactly 6 prize cards remaining, draw 8 cards instead. This card is going to be replacing a lot of supporters that people are playing, like Iono and Professor's Research. This is the new card. I was actually doing some research and learning about Lily, and interesting stuff. I've got a Pokemon trainer deck that I've been building for Lily, and you guys can look forward to that video. Wally's Compassion. Heal all damage from one of your Mega Evolution Pokemon. That's one of the things that Mega Evolution are very volatile. If they die, your opponent's taking 3 prizes, which is very rough if you have that happen in the middle or the early game. And so if you can heal them, easy. But in this case, if you healed your guy, then you have to discard all the energies. There's also the option of returning your Mega Evolution Pokemon to your hand and getting rid of the damage counters that way. We already talked about Fighting Gong. This is going to be very useful for those fighting decks in fighting engines, searching for a basic fighting energy and a fighting Pokemon. It's just an easy way to get those Pokemon out. Premium Power Pose, another one of those fighting cards. Iron Defender. I don't know how much play this is going to get. During your opponent's next turn, all of your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks. I mean, if your opponent is attacking where it deals damage, then it's preventing all damage. But if they're attacking with like a Dragapult, this will only prevent the damage from the 200 that's being dealt to the active Pokemon, because the way that the damage counters are being placed. I don't think this is going to get played. We've have all those berry cards that have come out that nobody ever plays with. Nobody's ever going to play with this. Although I could see a case where this could be effective on occasion, but it's like you have to have it in your hand. The circumstance has to be right. You might as well just have something else. It's just nobody ever plays with these sort of cards. Search your deck for a Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Oh, okay, Mega Signal. It's like the one that searches for Terra Pokemon. The thing that's interesting about a card like this is, yes, if you have lots of Mega Evolution Pokemon, it allows you to go get it. But if you have like an Ultra Ball does the same thing, but can search for any Pokemon. Of course, it also discards cards, but oftentimes you can use Ultra Ball to discard cards you want, or like there's other ways to search for Pokemon. It could be useful. Strange Timepiece. This is actually something I'm looking forward to, where you evolve one of your Psychic Pokemon. I want to look through all the Psychic Pokemon and see which ones have great abilities that you would want to be able to use when they get played. Mystery Garden. This is a great card that's going to be going into the Gardevoir decks. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard an energy card. It's just a way to get energies into your discard pile in order to draw cards until you have as many cards in your hand as you have Psychic Pokemon in play. So, just another card that's going to make Gardevoir even better. Yeah. Risky Ruins. What does this do? Whenever any player puts a basic non-dark Pokemon, so every other Pokemon color except for dark, onto their bench during the turn, placed... Oh, okay, so if you have a dark deck, your opponent's Pokemon will get placed 2 damage counters on them when they play them. Okay, we've seen like versions of this where where you can get damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. And then Surfing Beach we talked about. You can switch out water Pokemon. So there's all the cards for the Mega Evolution. A lot of interesting cards in this set. I was actually more pleased with what was in here compared to the last set within Black Bolt, White Flare. I kind of wonder what, because they're still doing EX Pokemon, but now they've got Mega Evolutions, so they're going to be doing Mega Evolutions for a while probably. What other Pokemon are they going to do that are going to be Mega Evolutions, and what kind of abilities and stuff they're going to have? I wonder if this is going to be with Mega Evolution being like a new block, I suppose, or like a new set era. I wonder what's going to develop, what's going to happen. So it's kind of interesting and fun to see all these cards. One thing that's interesting with the new block is Mega Evolution is the first set of the block, but it's all these cards are labeled as for rotation. Oh, I can't move anymore. They're all labeled as I cards. The label here, and so but the last 2 sets we've got Black Bolt, White Flare, and is it Journey Together, and I guess Destined Rivals are all, I think they're all I's. Journey Together may have been an H, so that means that when the rotation happens, the rotation's not happening on the block schedule, if that makes sense, but I'm sure that they think of those things. So I hope you enjoyed this video and like some of the ideas that I had. I'm going to be playing around with some of these decks ideas and stuff like that. Keep an eye out for I'm gonna start doing some new video ideas where we have this new fighting engine right here. I'm gonna look at because I'm also looking at sometimes instead of having to go search for cards, I want to make a document like this where it has all the fighting engine or fighting Pokemon engines, or if I'm looking at an engine for an electric deck, I'm like, what engine is going to be best for electric Pokemon? I'm thinking about building videos that are about the different engines that the different archetypes can use. So yeah, because we've got a lot of nice fighting Pokemon in this set that are going to help with fighting decks, like those engines that help make the deck function. There's a lot of grass cards in this deck with the Meganium and this I keep thinking of the older version, Forest of Vitality. But yeah, give it a like on this video and let me know what your thoughts are of this Mega Evolution set. Alright, see you guys. Take care.